Hi, my name is Victoria Tulo. I'm taking Everyday Ethics, Section 08, and I'll be presenting about gay parenting and its effect on children. Today, in the United States, people are becoming more accepting of homosexuals getting married, and homosexuals having children. But what does this mean for the United States in regard to children and parenting? Is there a difference between gays getting married and having children? Who is truly being considered when it comes to gays adopting children? Of course, every child that's up for adoption wants to be adopted, but is it in their best interest? Who's receiving the most moral? It can be argued that a child that is waiting to be adopted will benefit by having gay parents because they will no longer have to be in an orphanage. It could also be argued that a child will be more accepting if they have gay parents rather than heterosexual parents because they'll be entering this world knowing nothing but that in their immediate home. At the same time, does a gay couple's right to have children supersede their children's rights? Is it a selfish motive to have children? In the case of artificial insemination, for example, will this be in the child's best interest because he or she will have her homosexual parents from birth? Or will something such as artificial insemination confuse a child because it doesn't know its true origins? Because when homosexuals use artificial insemination, clearly the sperm and the egg cannot come from both parents of the same sex. I'm not saying, or I'm not assuming, that it's altogether wrong for a homosexual couple to use artificial insemination. However, when a heterosexual couple is using in vitro fertilization, usually it's because the couple is unable to have children due to issues with either the woman's eggs or something having to do with the man's ability to perform. However, the case still stands that when it comes to a heterosexual couple using in vitro fertilization because they're having issues with procreating a child, each component that forms a infant or child is present there because there's the sperm and the egg. While the sperm and the egg is also present during artificial insemination with homosexual parents, each parent is not providing the components that create the child. In turn, a child might be confused if they were birthed by artificial insemination because they might wonder, well, where is my biological father or where is my biological mother? That problem does not present itself when a heterosexual couple is using in vitro fertilization, being that each parent possesses the sperm of the egg. This brings me to my argument against gay couples having children. Consensus by many holds that gay couples having children will result in the children being psychologically disturbed, emotionally, or sexually, as opposed to children who are raised by heterosexual couples. I would argue that this might be true only because a child does come from a man and a woman, whether it be from in vitro fertilization or artificial insemination. That is the true origin of the child. Now, the child may be confused growing up as to where they come from, and they may be confused about their parents if their parents are homosexual, the fact that the parents are of the same sex. This may result in a child being confused about his or her own gender and their gender roles or gender identity. This may disable their ability to follow their own path when choosing their own identity or following their own intuition about their own sexualities outside of all they know from their parents. In my research, I've found that from psychoanalytic theories to social cognitive theories, major conceptualizations of human development have often been interpreted as predicting difficulties in gender development for children of lesbian and gay parents. Now, that's not to say that children of heterosexuals won't have problems either, but the research and theories show there are more problems with the children of homosexual parents. A counterargument could be that many might contend that biological factors influence a child's gender development. Perhaps their biology and prenatal hormones are the cause of their sexuality or gender roles and gender play. In other words, a counterargument may stand that a child's gender development, sexuality, and gender roles when playing has nothing to do with their parents' sexuality, but rather their biology and makeup. What I would argue is that If it were the case that prenatal hormones and biology affected a child's sexuality and gender development, then one could argue that if a child were the result of artificial insemination through a lesbian couple, that a child is more likely to be a lesbian because the prenatal hormones and biology of the mother made him or her a lesbian or gay. Therefore, that certainly cannot be true, because if the biology of a mother or father being gay made a child gay, then there would probably be a lot more gay children as a result of gay parents through artificial insemination. Now, I think that the child can be influenced by their parents' sexuality if that's what they experience or perceive as the norm. This can be said for heterosexual parents as well, but the difference is that heterosexual parents, biologically speaking, make a child. A sperm and an egg create a child. All that said, given that there are many children waiting in orphanages to be adopted, is it in the child's best interest to be adopted by gay parents? Now, clearly the gay parents are benefiting by this because they're getting to have a child. In the ideal situation, a child probably would benefit the most from having heterosexual parents, or at least a parent of each sex, so that he or she could see what each sex experiences as his or her identity or gender roles. Maybe they are outside the norm, but at least the child would have some sort of model. I'm establishing that clearly not every situation is the ideal situation, and I'm not opposed to gay couples altogether not being able to adopt. I'm saying that a child is given the most moral consideration when he or she is placed in a home with heterosexual parents. Clearly there can be exceptions to this. If the home is abusive, that could go for any home of any sexuality of couples. Now, granted the fact that there are many children in the United States waiting to be adopted, findings exist that a lot of the studies that were performed that resulted in saying that heterosexual couples and homosexual couples parent on the same level and provide the same results were actually pretty skewed, because the samples that were provided were handpicked by the researchers themselves. So can the data be trusted, showing that homosexual parents do not produce children who are either confused about their gender identity, gender development, or have emotional and sexual differences than heterosexual raised children? Every case will clearly not be the same. However, I think that it's in the child's best interest, given the possibility that this may happen, that they have heterosexual parents, because maybe their possibilities of gender identity development will be expanded rather than confused based on the natural biology and emotional experience of having a parent that one can associate with based on their gender. Because, for example, if a daughter had two gay fathers, she wouldn't have the emotional sympathy of the father, or empathy rather, when she's experiencing times of her life that only a woman would understand. This can also be said for a daughter of a single father, but the difference is that in most cases, a daughter or son of gay parents or lesbian parents, it's made by a choice. Single parents usually is a result, an unfortunate event, or something that forced them to make the decision to be on their own with the child. So ultimately, I think that a child or children are better off having parents who are heterosexual or parents of each sex, so that he or she can have the most experience, understanding, and, watching their parents behave and seeing two different sexes independently of each other. If the child is gay, or that he's gay or she is lesbian when she's an adult, at least he or she got to experience the two sexes and potential gender identities and have an understanding of where he or she came from. Even if the child is adopted and his or her parents are heterosexual, at least they can know, okay, I come from a mother and a father. I think it might be way worse in a situation where a son or daughter has homosexual parents, wherein maybe they were produced through artificial insemination or adopted, and in the case of adoption, the child clearly wouldn't come from both of those parents, and in the case of artificial insemination, they would be looking for one of their biological parents, which essentially might inhibit the child's ability to truly form their own unique identity.